Hey guys, welcome back. Carter Bitsby Trippin with Ray, part 6, part 5. What is this? Part 6. We're going to keep that in too. So part 6, so many that we got going on. We got a huge punch list of things to get through, you guys. This one's a good one. We're going to be taking the USB stick that we had Simple Mining on the last video. We'll make sure that we're putting that up here for you can click on it. What happens after this thing's built and done? And we're going to first tackle this with having a single GPU like in your gaming computer. And I think this will be a good one because this is a real world use case for people that want to get into mining, but don't necessarily maybe want to put a rig together first. They want to kind of try before they buy type of thing. They probably already have a machine with a GPU card in it. And this is a way for you to test that without having to use Windows for your mining. You can actually still use Simple Mining for that and put it onto a USB stick like that. And what we're going to do is walk you guys through that, how to look for setup and configuration on that with a single GPU and a gaming rig. And then in future videos coming up, we're going to put this in with a mining rig, and then we're going to have AMD cards. We'll have a rig with the NVIDIA cards, and then we'll have a rig with mixed amount of cards because sometimes you kind of go with what you have or what you can buy. Right. And sometimes that's just a mix of different GPUs. It's fine. You can still mine with that kind of setup. This episode is sponsored by Compass Mining, the company that makes Bitcoin mining accessible for everyone. The world is paying attention to Bitcoin miners lately. Mining difficulty is down and profitability is up. There's almost never been a better time to be a miner. Getting started with Compass is easy. You just purchase a machine, pick a hosting facility, and let them do the work. So if you're ready to start mining Bitcoin today, head over to compassmining.io. All right, guys, we're back. USB stick. So it's been ready. It's configured in your dashboard when you're logged in to Simple Mining. Like, let's say this machine's booted up. You're logged into Simple Mining. You're going to hit add rig. What that does for you allows, when this thing boots up, it will allow you to see this machine come online within that dashboard. So you're going to want to first configure it to say, for the next 60 minutes, I want a machine to be able to be added to my account. So we're going to go ahead and place this into the machine, and then we're going to boot this machine. And with like a gaming rig here, typically it's going to boot straight to your hard drive. So in this particular instance, we are going to go in there and hit F12 on this motherboard. Most motherboards, when they first boot up, will tell you hit like F2 to get into the BIOS or F11 to use the boot menu. And some motherboards also say use F12. This particular motherboard is F12. But I wanted to give you kind of all the options you have. So we're going to turn this machine on. We're going to hit F12 and we're going to choose the boot for USB. Now, there is a way for you to automate this. What I always say is, for the first time, just use the F keys, make sure everything's working, make sure your rig's running on the USB. And then after that, you can go into the BIOS. We'll show you that, and you can reorder which device it uses. So instead of using your hard drive very first, it'll actually boot from the USB drive. So if you're calling it a night and you're like, okay, I'm going to mine, you can take that USB, plug that into the USB area of the motherboard, and then it will automatically boot off if it detects the USB first. So that's why you'd want to do that, reconfiguring it once you know everything's working. And then you kind of control when you're going to mine and it's not mining on your hard drive. And I was talking to Ray why somebody would want to do that. Well, some of the risk with mining is that there's people that are trying to screw you over when it comes to, they know that you're trying to do cryptocurrency. So they make these different pieces of software that look like miners, but actually they're just backdoors to get into your computer. So, controlling this in a Linux environment using what would be considered, this is considered a SaaS. So it's a software as a service. Like, you pay to rent mining or to the service. Like, so Simple Mining gives you the first month for free, and then you would pay them for each of your rigs. Hive OS gives you, I think, the first 3 rigs for free, and we'll cover Hive in a different video. But, it's a service. They're giving you a dashboard and for you to be able to use that. So
with those, do you pay them, like, you pay them cash?
So you pay
up front, or do they take a portion of what you?
That's a good question. So, raise question if you didn't hear it. Do you, when you're paying for that service, how do they pay? How do you pay for it? So most of the time on all of them is you pay them in crypto. So Litecoin, most of them now take Litecoin, Dash, Ergo. There's a few. I think Simple Mining actually just does Ethereum Classic, Litecoin. Cheaper transaction cost coins. I mean, a lot of people are not using Ethereum for cheap transactions right now because it's expensive to just even, you'll spend like $7 or something to use a transaction on Ethereum right now. But you pay for that time in that, and it's the spot price like right now. So like, I think it's $2 a rig a month. You could do like $10. What's $10 in today's price? So whatever $10 spot price is on Litecoin, then that's what you would pay. So I go back, in the history and look what we've paid for Simple Mining before when Ethereum was like, like $8 or something. And it's like, holy crap, that was like, I paid $10 worth of Ethereum. I paid 1.2 Ethereum for Simple Mining fees, but it is what it is. But yeah, they take crypto for their payments for that. That's a good question, my dude. That's what this is for. So you set and configure that to where, because of those folks that will try to cause you harm with regards to getting into your computer and the risk of downloading different miners and all that, sometimes with Windows, is you're like, I don't want to mess with my current gaming hard drive. I don't want to risk, because that's maybe where you keep your wallet at. And you're like, you know what, I just don't want to have that risk. So this is why you would do this particular thing with like your gaming rig. And I realize that some people will probably have issues if they try to do this in their gaming rig, because Simple Mining may not have their hardware ID on the type of motherboard that they have, or there's some kind of different configuration. I did try this in my gaming laptop, and it was like, I don't know what CPU this is and what happened. So we'll have a separate video on that. Majority of motherboards, older motherboards especially, should work on it, but we will have one on how to address issues related to like if the configuration isn't able to be found on Simple Mining. But for this particular case, we're going to boot it up right now, and we're going to choose F12 to change which boot device. And let's pivot over to this, and we're going to boot it up. Take a second here. And when the screen comes up, we're hitting F12 right now to go into a selection here. And this may be different on each of your screens, but the basic premise is the same. The screen that's coming up is saying, here's what I see from a drive standpoint in your computer. I see your hard drive. It's the SanDisk. We can see that it says SanDisk on this. And then the other one that's here is the UEFI vendor product 2.0. That is this. It's like a generic USB drive, bottom line. So we're going to choose that one. You just move this around to where it looks like you're on that one. It's this one. And now we are immediately going into the bootloader for Ubuntu, which is what Simple Mining uses as its base OS. If you do not go in there and tell Simple Mining that you are wanting an inbound new machine, which is one of the first actions that you're going to do, I'm going to let the machine boot up and show you what the error that you will get. So we're going to start with the error first, and then we'll show you guys what it looks like once it picks it up. So it's going to come up, gives us that. And then right there, that red error is saying, failed to register with Simple Mining. Bottom line, you need to go in there and hit add rig. So we're going to do that right now. This part's going to get edited.
This is going to get edited right now. You're not going to see this. And he will repeat that part because he did not hit add rig. And that is on him. He should take full responsibility. And now he did it.
There we go. So now that that's been added, it won't find that current miner. And then there it is now. It just set it up, and it's automatically going to ETC right now as it's configured, and it's setting up the miner. And then we'll now get into configurations. It just set that up for the 6600, and it's going to go automatically into whatever the default you have set up is, which I have ETC set up right now as the default on that account. And it's going to get right into doing some base mining. Now, this is not configured in any way right now. This is just like when we did it in Windows when we plugged it in and there was no settings. You know, it was just like whatever that GPU can take. It's what it's doing right now. And that's why we're seeing, you know, like 15 mega hash right now. This thing should be doing a little faster, but it's just our first initial what it's doing. It shows us about how using 150 watts. So what we'll do now is we'll bring up the laptop, and yeah, now it's at 28 mega hash. So it's about where it needed to be right now. From a configuration standpoint, from a base not touching the memory, right? This thing goes to 32 mega hash. We know whenever it's configured appropriately, and we can drop some wattage down to around 60, 70 watts when it's running. So this is the machine. This is equivalent to a gaming machine booting up that OS and not running Windows and doing the same results that we had. And we didn't configure it. We didn't really have to do anything. You remember downloading the miner and all that kind of stuff we had to do? That's why you see how fast that was. Like, that's why the folks on the chat were like, why are you going through this when you could just plug that in and it just gets right to it. And then so we're going to get in now to a quick configuration of this and just get this set up with the two different options here. And then you guys will be able to see that. All right, guys, back, got the laptop set up. We're going to bring up the dashboard for you guys. We'll get logged in here to the laptop, and we're going to show you the laptop view of the dashboard while the machine's on. So if you only have one computer, you're going to want to do what we're about to do on this laptop on your computer before you shut it down and put the USB stick in. So we're going to bring up the dashboard and then switch over for you guys. Right? Let's do this. We'll cut it all the way to here. So go into the laptop view. All right, we got the dashboard up. Just as we showed you guys just a second ago, we're going to hit add new rig. That's going to go and add it for the next 12 hours. And we're going to boot this machine up. And what we're going to see, and we'll switch between the two. Let's pivot to the machine here. So the machine's going to boot up. And then as it starts to show Ubuntu loading. Now this is going to show your IP that is validating that. And we've blocked out that for obvious reasons. And we're going to go in right now and show you guys the dashboard screen here. So now that's going to come up and it's going to show that machine right here. It's no name. We don't know what the name is yet. We're going to come in here and see the details. Now, if you're sharing this with people, you just got to be careful. Simple Mining will show the public IP address. So like if you're sharing screens with somebody or something like that, understand your IP will be exposed. We will make sure that we block that out for us. But right now it's running whatever the base setup on the rig list is. So we're going to just go right back. Whenever you open up and you hit rig list here, or you hit a particular machine, it just opens up a little tab right here. So we're going to kind of click that tab away real quick. And we are going to highlight this. And we're going to sit there and choose a new group config for this. And in that group config, we're going to start with let's just do the Ethereum Classic. That's the one it's taken as the default anyways. And we're going to save and reload. And then that now sets the config to Ethereum Classic. So we already had this preset up. There is a video. We'll make sure that we link also to you guys on setting up, different configs here. But you can come in here and we can go through and do, a group OC. This is only one card. So like in here, we will go through and you can already see some settings here that we already have on this. But on this particular card, like we did in Windows, we had set it down to 1400 on the memory. With Linux is half. So like where we were doing on this like 21 something, I think it was 2160, 2150 was the memory speed. With Linux, it's usually half of that. So you'll do like 1100 would be 2200, so like 1150 would be 2100 memory speed. So we'll put in 1050, which would be a 2100,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the core voltage, we're going to go down to like 760. And then power stage is fine, down to 3. And then we're going to save and reload. Now we can come in here and change the name too on this. You can hit the actions tab right here, and used to be under here. You'd actually, it's if you just select this rig, should be able to show settings and then change the name right up here. And we're just going to call this machine gaming rig 6600 XT. And then that was updated. So now it's restarting the miner for us real quick, and we're going to see it boot up. And but I'm watching the miner right here load. So this is sharing what we're seeing on the screen right here is also what is happening on the machine. And from our perspective right now, we're seeing it a little faster because it draws it to the local machine, but then it's sending us kind of what's happening as a delay on this screen. So this is a view on the dashboard. So this machine could be just plugged in or whatever, and then you could actually bring up your dashboard on the phone, on like your phone, and be able to click the little icon right here on the rig list. So like if you're right here on the all rigs, you could literally come down here and just hit this little eye, and then this is going to show you what the machine's doing right here, which is pretty sweet.
That's pretty cool.
So you don't even have to like have your monitor plugged into it, which is pretty sweet. Now we're getting only about 29 here. So you can see the memory in VDC is running at 1350, and the core clocks here running at 806. So we told it to do 760, but it's doing actually on the screen here. It's pulled it down to 1400 and 1050, which is getting us about 29 mega hash right now on the card. And we'll see what the average speed here in a second is. So we're still setting at 29. We could pull up the memory. Let's do 1100 here, or 1120. Let's do 1120 on the megahertz on the memory, right? And then we're gonna come down here and hit save. So you can see how quick this is. And now it's gonna reboot that to just restart the miner, because we're using LOL miner for this. So you're gonna, on the dashboard view, you'll also see it here, coming up as we're seeing it. So we're just making configuration changes here. So you're able just to modify. You remember we were using the software in Windows to like go in there and go to the AMD, and we have to use all those little sliders and all that. It was just a lot more, where this is just like click, 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 save, it reapplies it.
Okay.
And that's the ease of use in it. Remember, as we recap this, like we downloaded, we set it up, we pointed the email to be able to log into the dashboard, and now we're just actively adjusting it here, and it's making changes in real time to the machine.
Okay.
You see the ease of use and why you'd want it. It's really selling itself by just seeing how quick. And then I'm not worried about trying to get to the maximum amount on this right now. This whole point of this video is showing, because like I could separately tune, we could go through and try to figure out the best settings, and we would want to be looking at the power consumption, what we're using right now, which we're using right at a little over 110 watts on this machine, 120 watts max on this machine. Full system. I'm getting that number from the meter because I'm looking at the meter, right? So yeah, we're up to 31 because we brought up the memory megahertz to 1120 here. So now we're at about 31, which is really where 31 to 32 is what this card will do. And you can see right now it's showing that the card itself is using 59 watts to do that, right? And then I'm looking at the full system, setting at 106, bouncing between 106 full system to like 120, which the machine, it's reading right now the total power at 110. In reality, we're seeing 120 because of the meter is actually plugged into this, so it's showing us what we're actually getting. So the software's a little off, but that's okay. You know, like it's still, this is really, really efficient. As you know, here it goes to 60, and that's just really pulling the 60 watts from that 12 pin. It's not really because it's not metered at the slot, right? So that's why us testing the card the other day, and like think like part 3 where we were testing the card, we were wanting to capture like what's the actual full card getting, because you know the motherboard uses software to try to understand how much power it's using. Where that's why it's nice having like a kilowatt or something else plugged in to try to get a baseline.
So if you had multiple GPUs on there, you can go to group and change all of them at once.
Yeah, so like we'll use that right now for this little example for everybody. We'll go to all rigs because we do have a 6 rig set up here. So if we go into this particular thing right here, we can see on this 6 rig setup here, it is showing, you know, it's running Kapow right now, but we're able to see how much power is on each of the cards here. So there's 6 different GPUs. We can see them running right now, and they're all getting at about 11 mega hash right now, 11 to 12 mega hash. And then the Kapow kind of swings. So right now, this whole rig's getting at about 11.8, but it'll swing to like 12.5 to 13 mega hash on the RX 580s. Sorry, the RX, 580. These are RX 580s. And you can see they've been running for quite a long time. They have tens of thousands of accepts here. Total, you know, it's 18,000 shares that it has sent because it's had a long uptime here. You can see the uptime on this particular machine has been 12 days. Like it hasn't been restarted. It's just ran 24/7, 365. You know, for 12 days. You know, but it's 24/7 for 12 days, not 365. But that's a pretty stable rig, you know, and it's averaging anywhere from 70 to 86 mega hash as it ranges with that. And you can kind of see right here, it's, you know, 79, 81 mega hash, 70. You see there up right here. Yeah. 80 mega hash, 80 mega. You can see kind of as it ebb and flows through the day and how long it was. And the whole machine's using about 900. It says 900 and something watts. We had it on the meter, or when I have it on the meter, it's about running right around 1,080 watts. So it's missing about 100 watts from this, or 180 watts, which is really just the full system that it's missing there for that. But that gives us kind of an early look at the machine build that we'll do. And so we'll build a different rig with you, like to do this, and we'll have different settings and stuff. But that's really what all it is right now. So this machine running the gaming rig, the 6600 XT, running in a gaming rig, running Simple Mining, and would allow you to do exactly what we want to do here, where like we didn't touch anything with the Windows drive. We just told it to go to this drive to boot from, and then it goes right into Simple Mining, into whatever portfolio you have. You can save these settings. We've been just auto adjusting the individual clocks. And then if I wanted to come back out of here and say, well, you know what, I want to mine Ravencoin, I already have a Ravencoin set up in here. So I can go there, select the rig. So it's right now, it's selected right now with as it's highlighted. And then I can go in here and say actions, group config. Let's just go ahead and run Raven settings, Ravencoin, save and load. So now it's going to point the rig to Ravencoin. And I'll show you real briefly how to kind of go in there and set those up for the people that are trying to track that. Like, hey, I want to set up a new coin or something. We can go through that with it. We'll just set up a different miner real quick in here so you know how to do that, because this was already pre-configured. And this is for the folks that are tracking. They're going to be like, hey, how cool story, bro. You already had some stuff lined up. Like, right. How would you go in here and do that? Let's let this kind of boot up real quick, and we'll see Raven. So this is coming up right here. You can see, you know, on the screen, it's running. And right now it's taking these settings that we have, the 1400 core and the high memory. We could drop the memory down and not pound the memory as hard. We are still pushing a very low core voltage to it, but we're not also pushing the core clocks, right? And this is where I was saying you could actually come down and bring down. So you see how that deep blue you can barely see there. it changes it here to where we can actually go out there and see. And right now it's getting about 7 or 8. This card on the next cycle that it'll get, it should get a little higher than that. We were looking, I think, at like 12 and a half or close to 15, I think was the max. Yeah, 14.31 or something like that. So on the next cycle here, it should spin back up a little more. Yeah, it's up to 13 now. And, you know, we would go and play with some of these. So, like, we're pulling a lot more core out of it right now, and we're forcing a low cold voltage. I mean, I would probably drop the memory some because it doesn't need, even though the Ravencoin uses a DAG file, it doesn't need to really pound the memory as hard as the Ethereum. It's more core centric. So the main core of the processor is leveraged a lot more with Kapow. So just letting the card run at stock will actually drive a lot more power usage. We'll get a lot higher mega hash, but it's a little harder on the card. So I like balancing it down just to preserve the card. I don't want the card running really hot and using a ton of electricity. It's worth more to let the card run maybe a little slower, and extend the life of your card and still be able to, you know, mine Ravencoin in this particular case. So it's mining there. While we're letting it do that, let's go ahead and go into and set up, you know, some of the settings here. So, you know, you can go into a group config. And if I click the group config up here, as opposed to like highlighting the different system, this is all the different configs and then the addresses. So if we wanted to add a new one, so let's just say we're gonna use the Ethereum Classic. So we're gonna come over here. Let's do here. Let's edit this real quick because I want to copy this part. Right, I want to copy the address because we want to use that again. And let's just say you found something that said, hey, this other miner is better. So like right now we're using LOL miner, but let's say we wanted to use Team Red miner, right? So we hit add new config, and we'll call this one Team Red miner, TRM, latest. And we'll just say on the notes, this is Team Red miner Radeon GPUs. Right, and then the select the miner, Team Red miner, bam. And did you see on this? It was very interesting. So before we had to go out to Bitcoin Talk, or you know, the Bitcoin Talk forum. Right. We had to scroll down. We had to find it through this forum to do it in Windows. Right. We didn't know if we were downloading the wrong one. Like a lot of things can occur. This already. So this is what I meant by software as a service earlier. This is software that's running a website, and it's a service that they're providing. So like Simplemining, Hive OS, you'll end up seeing Hive in a different video. They're doing a service for you by making sure that they're building this from source code and that this stuff is good to go. And there's also tagging on this, both the AMD and the NVIDIA. You know, does this software do both? Yeah. And so you're getting kind of a rundown on that. So like if we pick this, it's going to go ahead and put some basis for you also. It's actually copying in the basic setup for you here, right? So it's saying, hey, the algorithm is hash. The -O is the stratum plus SSL :/, and then the destination. Again, it's a lot like a web address, right? Instead of HTTP : //, which is hyper markup language, hypertext markup language, it's saying that we're going to use the stratum protocol plus if we're hitting the SSL port, which is encrypted traffic. So it's just creating like a tunnel that's encrypted. So the data is still flowing to that server. It's encrypted. So people would see the bytes, but they wouldn't understand what the bits were, right? So SSL is a specific thing. Now, if we're going to Ethermine, we could go out there and cross-reference ethermine.org, and we could click on ETC in this case, and then we could go into, we want to start mining with them, and then they're going to show us their settings. So we want to go to US, right? So let's go back here and let's go in here and make sure that's to the EU. We don't want that. Before that, let's just go ahead and paste our address in here, which is this .u, and then the rig name, which we copied too. So we're just going to highlight that, and we're going to paste that with a V. So we know that that's our address we want to go to, dot the rig, which I can actually change the rig name here to say that this is the gaming rig, right? We'll leave the rest of that there. And then we want to make sure we're updated to go to the US. So we're going to go here and just highlight this whole thing because that's the server we're going to. We can come back in here and just highlight to the .org and then over to there. Because remember, stratum plus SSL : // it's like replacing a web address, right? Okay. We're going to just go back here and paste that. And then since we're using SSL in this case, what's the SSL port? It is 5555. That's that kind of docking ring thing that we were talking about, where you're going at. So it's : that. So and then the space -u, our address. And then this other stuff is for like the listener and watchdog script, which is how this software then displays it through that little watch window that we can see. That way we don't have to have a monitor plugged in. I think that's the correct thing for that. It will tell us if it's incorrect. So we're going to leave that as it is. We are using the latest miner version, which is pretty sweet there. They have that. And then we are going to save that as its own thing. Okay. And now that just added a new Ravencoin, or that added a new, Ethereum Classic thing for us, which is down here. And that's the other thing is we want to, I didn't put in the notes here. We're going to click back here. We're going to call this TRM latest ETC because we want to tag where's that address going. Right. So we're going to save that. And now we got latest there. So now if we go back to the rig list, we can highlight this and we can say, go to group config, TRM latest ETC. And now if we save and reload rig, we'll go back to the little button here and we should see that push that change to this setup here. So it'll send that config over to this machine. We should see it here in a second. Now, yep, there it goes. Mining started. Because so this software is setting at simplemining.net is communicating with this machine and it's sending over. So see, this came up and says, hey, we don't have that miner on that local drive, and it's pushing that new miner. It's downloading it, extracting it, setting it up for us. So that, again, all automated. Right. Compared to us downloading that zip file, opening it, editing the bat file, all that. And now it's going to push through and it's going to come through and connect. And we're going to see it setting up those settings. And this is a software that I can use that S command, like if I have a keyboard plugged into it. So I can quickly go just S and it's going to give me stats really quick. So right now this is still configuring on fhash, and we'll be able to see this coming up. It's hard to see on that screen because it's all darker blue, and this one's a lighter blue. So I can keep just hitting S, and then it's going to give me. So right now we're back up to 31 because we're doing ETC, which is like Ethereum, and everything. The world is right. So it all comes back down to, what miner do you need to use with whatever card? And that's just researching and looking at either people's videos, that kind of stuff here. I'll switch over to the screen so they can hear us talk about this piece. Yeah, I'll go back to main. So that's just researching what miner to use. Right. Like you'll hear, hey, T-Rex is good, or Team Red Miner does it really good if you use this config with that particular card. And then you're just setting that up. And once it's set up, it's kind of, I don't want to call it set it and forget it, but that's effectively it. You set it, you make sure it's your right address, and then it just starts working. It's going to tell you if you've done something wrong. Miner's not going to work. It's going to literally come up and say, sorry, can't mine to that address. And on our rig, the big rig config, we'll show everybody an example of that. We'll mess up something in there purposely, and we'll show you some of the errors that come with that if you mess it up. But if you see it mining and it's going, you put your address in there, it's going to your address. And I mean, we can actually go out there and see that. If we scroll back here real quick, and then we'll wrap this one up because it's getting pretty long. We'll go back to the laptop here. So if you want to see, like we've been mining for a minute here on Ethereum Classic. We just set this up on ETC's Ethermine's setup, right? So we can go into that group config again. We can grab so it always highlights the active ones, right? It's the gray ones are not running. The darker ones are running. So we're looking for the Team Red miner, and we're looking for this one. So we click on it, and then we can hit this little gear over here. We can edit, and we can just drag this address right here. Right click, copy. And then we can go over to here on that address, and we can click miner address, and we can paste that and hit enter. What it's going to do is it's going to come up and it's going to show if so it hasn't picked up this work yet. So if we let it sit here for a second, it will, we did all the way to 0.1, right? DD01. DD01. So yeah, if we wait for a second here, we hit refresh, it'll come up here and it'll say 1 worker is active. And it's going to start showing you on the site here that it's picked up some traffic here. It takes it a second because the website, like we have to submit valid shares to the site, which if we go back here and look, you'll see right down here, we've had 1 rejected share so far. So it says 1 rejected. So what a rejected share typically is we're working on a proof of work, right? If we submit our proof, right? We say, hey, here's the work we've worked on. The pool gets it. 2 things happen. 1, it's miscalculated or something's wrong with the proof. Only ways that typically happens, if there's like just something genuinely wrong with the proof, is where we're running too high on our memory. Well, it looks like we just got another error code rejected. This provided solution is invalid. So we've gotten a second bad proof here. So that could be that we're running the memory too hard, or we're not giving the card enough juice. It's given us an improper calculation, and it's just rejecting the work that we're doing. We're saying, hey, you're giving it. It'd be equivalent to like if somebody was playing a game and they changed their clock settings so high or so low, and it started like artifacting on the screen. Like if you overclock a GPU too much, especially a GPU's memory, like if you were playing a game on this, it would just be like you would see all kinds of artifacts on the screen because you're just pushing the GPU too hard. It's not properly generating the content. So in this case, we've had 2 rejected shares back to back. More than likely, these are not good settings. This is the stuff that you want to look for, right? Is like, are we doing something wrong here? So we've had just 2 rejected shares. I would come back in here and I would adjust this and say, maybe we need to go to 800 on the millivolts here. And let's take this down to 1100 from 1120. And we're just feeding it just a little more juice, and we're bringing the memory down a little bit. Now, again, remember those figures are double. So this would be 2200 memory.
Yeah.
Speed, which is still pretty fast because I think the memory top speed on these are 2250. Okay, so now it's reset. We're going to see if we can get an active share. If we can get an active share, it should show up on here that we've had good work. We've had a share submitted, and it's submitting work. Right now, it's just rejected, so it doesn't even see that we're even doing valid work on this pool. So to get back to shares, the other reason why you'd have a rejected share sometimes is because, let's look at the all rigs here. So on this one, we've had 18,000 accepted shares, 53 rejected. So 18,053, that's a very low rejection rate. You would get a rejection rate because that's where you're still getting valid work. See these green little valids, Those are valid shares. you would get that because you've worked on a solution that is no longer needed because the block has been solved. So your machine was just working on something and you submitted it for a particular block, and it's going to be like, hey, bro, we already found that solution. So then it rejects that share.
Right.
The work packages that they give you when you're doing proof of work, you don't get like the entire solution set. You get a portion of the solution set. So if you think of a number line that starts with like 0 into 100, you will get a just like 1 through 5 on that number line. And you're going to work that solution to get a whole bunch of answers, and then you're going to submit that. And then the next one you're going to get a work segment that is 23 through 26 out of 100, right? And so you're working on little bits of solution sets, and then you're proving that work out, and then you're submitting it. And then maybe you work on the solution set where it needs to be, right? But you could submit that, and it's like, no, we're already done. We're working on sections 200 through 300 now. So you need something in between there, right? So that's effectively it. Looks like we still getting rejections. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it could be, we're definitely receiving jobs from this, but there could be something else that's going on here. And it could be sometimes the SSL. I mean, SSL should be fine. We're connected, but I mean, it looks like it's just not like in the work that we're doing, using these settings that we have right now. So it shows 21, but we're just getting just a bad result. So we're picking up work, and it's just the settings that we have, I think, here for this particular, which it was working fine on the other one. So we can go back and look. But yeah, so it's showing right here, this little thing. It's going to show like, hey, bro, you've had you're getting bad work. Like it's giving us an indicator here that there's a notification saying that, hey, you're working, but you ain't getting no credit for it. And that's what that is. And what we could do is what I typically do is I try other miners first. Like if everything is configured right, I'm receiving work, the settings we're working on one miner, but we're not working on another, then there's maybe something with that miner, the way it's handling the processing of it, that isn't able to work within where another miner works. And this is another key point. Like some people just sit there and beat on and try to make like Team Red miner work, right? And it's like, hey, is it working in this other miner? And are you getting good shares? If so, then just stick with that one until they do an update. Because sometimes also the miner, this is the new 6600, Team Red miner might not have really good support with that, or it's not understanding this architecture right, and might give you a bad result. So trying different miners, this is another big key point. Try different miners sometimes with the same settings, and then see your results and what you get. That could be another thing. But here, let's switch back. This wasn't to totally troubleshoot this particular thing. We're going to have a whole episode on troubleshooting problems like this that I want to dedicate it on. So we're going to go back real quick and wrap this one up. So that ran a little longer than normal, but there's a lot to cover here because it's configuring, it's setting up, it's explaining like what happens when we have rejections. It's explaining different miners and the differences between windows, what you saw in part 3 and 4. So hopefully this one's been good for you guys. You had a lot of, good questions. I mean, do you think you're starting to pick some of this up now?
Yeah.
We're 6 parts, 7, going to be on our 7th part in.
Yeah.
And
starting to pick it up. Not totally lost anymore.
Nice. Ray's not totally lost, my dudes.
It's pretty good.
Awesome. So we're going to do for tomorrow, or you're going to see this one actually today, because we're pushing this one out today on the same day. And then we're recording tomorrow's today also, which is just a expanded version of this with a mining machine, which we kind of gave some insight on what we were doing there, but we're actually going to set it up. So if hopefully you guys like this series. I mean, I'm trying to not cut a whole bunch out of it. That way you guys can see the kind of organic nature of just trying to deal with things and problems and stuff. And we will have a dedicated video on mining issues. Like we're going to create a whole bunch of issues. I have some risers that don't work. I'm going to show you guys that whole 9 yards of but we'll try to organize that one in chapters to where you can kind of jump to a particular problem you're having, like no display, miner not connecting, you know, not seeing your miner on the pool, those kind of things that hopefully it allows you to jump to the one part that you're having a problem on. So cool. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and sharing this content. I know I keep saying that. I'm trying to hit 100,000 for this channel and all of us here at BBT to get this content out to you guys, let you guys independently mine these different networks and be a contributor. So thanks again, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.